I encourage everyone to follow Nick, to follow Data Kinetic, because they are tons of wisdom there. Okay, they're advisors, they're providing solutions, so please reach out and let the great team to ask you what bothering you. All right, finding the right approach, right solution. Absolutely, I'm just enjoying the talk here because I learn from fascinating people in tech. So Nick, turning the page and kind of moving towards the future. Okay, because now we're all in this playpen, right? We're looking at whatever level, small, medium, large, small businesses, large organizations, right? Doing something with AI. Look at the statistics, look at the investment. All right, it's really the new optimistic American way, I think, right, to ignite the future growth. So looking into the future, how do you think we're going to end up this year and maybe 5 years from now in a way that we will be more comfortable, more investments will come, more teams, more hiring, more something there? I envision it this way. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I think what are we now? We're in July now. So look, we're seeing the large language model sort of modern AI toolchain stabilize. And so we understand the primitives that are required. And so a lot of those primitives will move into platforms. Like I think if you go to like Databricks Summit 2 weeks ago and what Snowflake announced, you can see them stabilizing where the primitives are. So vector stores, vector databases, how you think about agents, and so those are starting to stabilize. So I think in a year, towards the end of the year, we'll see a relatively consistent set of primitives and components to support these models. I think towards the end of the year, we'll start to see what I'd call open source and closed source models of excellence, or generic models, and so we'll have room to understand how to use those. I think the fine tuning and custom tooling, custom modeling, I expect that to also stabilize in the next 6 to 12 months, and so we'll start to see the actual improvement of custom modeling versus using like a RAG approach. So effectively retrieval aggregation. I think that so we'll see those stabilize, I think. And so what that means short term is like, be very conscious as to where you're putting your investments. Like in some ways, it's better to invest in a good embedding strategy now into a vector store than trying to build your own custom large language model. Or understand how you can, build agents in a way that ensure that, your data doesn't leave the organization. And so thinking those through. There's definitely some cases for customers building large language models, but, I think we're going to keep seeing those models themselves become more efficient, more stabilized, and as I said, we'll see models of excellence over time. So we'll have an open source model that's really good at code generation. We'll see an open source model that's good at summarization. We'll see others that are good at math. And I think as we see these models of excellence evolve, that will probably be in the next 6 to 12 months. We can kind of choose or have almost like a model router that will allow us to figure out which model makes the most sense based on how the agent's responding. So I think the underlying tooling is going to stabilize and become a lot more accessible for folks, and the costs will continue to race, pretty quickly to something more commoditized. We're also starting to see like more runtime on these models. So, being able to run actual applications inside of these models. I think that's a natural, data gravity, model gravity type play. For most enterprises, though, I think most enterprises will tend to want to have their own, opinionation on the architecture. And so running on, a runtime in some of these model platforms may or may not make sense for organizations, for large organizations at least. So I think the other thing we'll see in the next 6 to 12 months, I worry a little bit that there's been so much hype that there's going to be sort of the anti-hype. And so I think for organizations now, just to be prepared for like, hey, be really specific. Like, there's going to come a point in 6 months' time where everyone's like, well, we had ChatGPT back in January and it didn't change. It was cool, but it didn't change our world. And so I think you've got to really focus on translating that. And so making sure that, you've set expectations of your organization well, and you're also prepared for that. So that's my 1 year prediction. 5 years is, go ahead.
No, 5 years. 5 years, exciting. Yeah.
5 years. I mean, it's such a hard.
We're not gonna hold you responsible, Nick. You're not the only one who cannot guarantee 5-year prediction. This is
Yeah.
just This is
Well,
our imagination and what we see from the intuition and experience you have.
look, I'll give you my 5-year wish list where I hope to
Yep,
see us
good.
in 5 years, which is I really do want to see, like, in 5 years, I think there's an opportunity for all of us to get, much better at having repeatable, describable outcomes that the business can request from these platforms. These platforms deliver them. And so that right now there's so much customization in the middle, it's really hard to get there. And I really hope in 5 years we can say, I would like a single serving of supply chain optimization, please. And the model's like, here's your single serving of supply chain optimization. And how that happens underneath doesn't really matter as long as it's within some cost and doesn't break any laws and stays in line with our principles. And so that's where I'd like to see the market get to. Now, obviously, there's, we talked about just some of the stuff under the hood today that has to be solved to make that possible. But that's really where I'd like to see it, because I think by, in some ways, standardizing outcomes and making those outcomes predictable for the business, that's really where the concept of generative applied AI can get really powerful. Like, hey, I would like a single serving of X, Y, and Z. The platform delivers that, someone validates it, and then you just, manage it. And I think that is where I hope we end up in 5 years, because that's true, that's GDP changing type innovation that is really powerful. So that's what I hope for.